All right, welcome everybody. Today we have a very special training. We're going to share with you the two biggest reasons why you should attend a trade show right now. I'm super excited to have our special guest presenter, Amy Weiss. How's it going, Amy? Welcome.
It's going. I'm just realizing it's sunset here and I'm having sun things happening here
It's all good. I
across
think
my
I think they call
video.
it the golden hour, right? That's like the
I
best
guess
lighting.
so. You know, my
And
last my last
yeah.
office in the house that I lived in before this was so dark. So, I really shouldn't be complaining, but I've never, I guess, been on when it's been like this before. So, hey, everybody.
Yeah.
You get
Yes,
to see my
yes.
sunshine today.
Excellent. Bringing the light to everybody all over the world. I see some people are joining us already, and some people are coming in the room. Like to give quick shout outs. Welcome, Chad. Welcome, David. Welcome, Abby. I see Noreen joining us as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining us live. The replay will be available as well on our YouTube, available shortly. So today's presentation training is about the two biggest reasons to attend trade shows in 2024. Amy, can you quickly explain why is this so important and who's this training for today?
So I think that some people have always sourced remotely, right? And so they may have gone to a smaller trade show, or maybe they've even gone to a big trade show like the Canton Fair. But a lot of things are changing, in case you guys haven't noticed, in our global e-commerce environment. And it's really important to understand not only why we should go to trade shows, but how we should navigate them and what we should be looking to get out of them in order to really not only survive what's happening in e-commerce, but thrive and be able to get ahead of our competition. So we're hoping to give you guys some great tips today that hopefully help you consider attending a trade show this year and maybe even consider joining us in China for the world's largest trade show. But we also hope that you just learn something from this and think about no matter where you're at in your business, think about your sourcing strategies and the foundation for your business in a different way than you have before.
Absolutely. I feel like trade shows, they're kind of underrated. And there is that statistics that multi-million dollar e-commerce sellers are two times as likely to attend a trade show versus non-multi-million dollar e-commerce sellers. So I'm not saying if you go to a trade show, you'll become a seven-figure seller like overnight, but it is along the right path. And we'll explain two big reasons why, especially in terms of product selection, product development. Trade shows can give you an upper hand as well as profitability. I know everyone's struggling with the new Amazon fees, Q4, all the peak storage, etc. Right. So these are ways that you can kind of maximize your profitability. A lot of people are overlooking. All right. So I know we got a lot of stuff to cover today, and there will be a chance to for some Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as we go through. And just a quick aside, some of you guys know that, I lived in China for 11 years, working in Shanghai for a sourcing company. I was working as a sourcing manager to director level, visited hundreds of Chinese factories. I've been going to trade shows probably for like 10, 15, 20 years. Like even before I went to China, when I was first started selling on eBay back in 2005, I would go to Vegas to their fashion trade shows like Magic and stuff like that. So, I do have a lot of experience to weigh in as well. So if you guys have any specific questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. All right. Amy, so is the lighting all good for you
Yeah, I
before we
had to
get
fix it.
started?
It was gonna drive me nuts, so I think it's
All
better.
right. Okay, okay, excellent. Well, without further ado, when you're ready, Amy, would you like to share your screen and we'll get this show started?
Let's do it. So, Gary and I today are going to talk to you guys about the top 2 reasons why sellers must attend trade shows in 2024. And we have a question for you guys. And if you could just put a number in the chat or whatever, we want to know, are you planning to attend a trade show like the Canton Fair this year? And you can either say, 1, yes, I'm planning to attend, no, but I'm considering it, not at all, or I want to learn more. Maybe I should attend. I don't know. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yes. We see Chad says yes, planning to attend. Pete says wants to learn more. Noreen is not at the moment. All right. And me personally, even if you can't fly to China, consider trade shows locally wherever you are. Like for me, like in Japan, there's actually the Japan gift fair coming up next week. It's the biggest trade show in Japan. So I know if you guys are all over the world, you can't come to China. I mean, going to China obviously will give you an upper hand, but there's local trade shows as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I would agree. Like anything you can do, and hopefully some of the tips that we give you guys today, you can use those. So love
yeah,
it.
yeah, excellent.
So
And Abby says that she will attend as well. All right.
oh, all right, Eddie. Woohoo. So just a little bit, the boring slide, like who is this lady that's talking to me? In case you guys have never heard of me, I am a seller. I've been selling since 2007 on Amazon, so longer than a lot of people in the space. Of course, back then I was in the United States Air Force and it was just a hobby. And then I invented a product in 2017 and I've been selling ever since. So it's a lot of fun. I'm an inventor and patent holder, and then through actually inventing and bringing my product to market, I became really fascinated with product development and helping other people with product development. And then, I started hosting trips to China. Now I co-founded 2 trade shows around the world. So I own one in Latin America called Evolatam and one in Jordan in the Middle East called Sell and Source MENA. And I'm excited to be, part of this great sourcing community because for me, my first time going to China was in 2019, I believe it was. It was either late 2018 or early 2019 for the Canton Fair. It was my first time. I worked through an intermediary for the molds that were to make this product that I'm holding in my hand, plastic injection molds. I paid $50,000 for those molds going through an intermediary in the United States. I went to China and found out I could have sourced those molds myself for about $13,000. That's a huge difference. And then I also just discovered how much was out there compared to just sourcing on Alibaba as I was doing. I didn't understand the difference in pricing and how much there was available to me. I didn't understand the scale of manufacturing in China until I went. So for me, going to China has been one of the most impactful moves in my business. And so I have always kind of fell in love with sourcing after that and product development. And I've had the pleasure of helping thousands of brands launch.
Absolutely. And Amy, if I did the math correctly in my head, you saved about $37,000 just on the mold cost alone, right? Going to
I
China.
would have,
You
yeah.
would have.
Look, I
Okay.
already paid through an intermediary in the United States, so I didn't know, until and that's the thing I always say about sourcing. You don't know what you don't know until you go, and it's the
Right.
same thing like if you're trying to source from Mexico or you're trying to source from Vietnam
Yeah.
or India, like you just gotta go because it's just
Yes. Yeah.
eye-opening, right?
Yeah. So for those of you guys watching, if you are, in that product development phase, if you're looking at like mold fees, if you do have a chance to go to China, I think it makes sense to go direct to the source, right? You could realize like a huge potential savings, like what just Amy just shared in her experience. So I I'll do a quick intro of myself. I've been doing ecom for many years, and I think today I'll just weigh in more on the sourcing side rather than and how it relates to ecom. So let's keep going. I know we got a lot to cover.
All right. So the agenda, what are we going to talk about? We're going to kind of talk about what are trade shows and we're going to talk about important things like how do we reduce costs? How do we find innovative products? We're going to give a sneak peek into the Canton Fair. We're going to talk about the sourcing trip that we're going on and highlights for that. And then of course we'll do some Q&A. So our next poll, we would like to know how experienced are you with sourcing products from China? So say 1 if you're very experienced, like you've done this multiple times, remotely or in person, like you kind of know what you're doing. 2, I'm okay, I'm feeling my way around. And 3, I'm brand new to this. This is, totally new for me.
All right. So Chad says 1, Evie says 3, David says 3, and Noreen is between 1 to 2.
Okay. All right, cool. Very good. It's good to see, like, we got a little mix of everybody. And honestly, that's what we find on our sourcing trips too. We have people who've been sourcing from China for years, and then we have people who are, like brand new, haven't even started their business yet. I mean, it's just like, it's cool to see all the different sides of it. So this slide is very busy, but what we want to focus on is what are trade shows and why are they important? So trade shows are essentially industry-specific events where businesses and professionals gather to showcase and discover the latest products, and that's the key, the latest products, services, and trends. So that's the thing, is when you're going to trade shows, you should expect to see what's up and coming, right? Especially Canton Fair, there's over 80,000 suppliers, so there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of booths. So suppliers want you to come in their booth. And how do they do that? By bringing out their latest innovations, the things that they're working on. And so that to me is what's always exciting about trade shows. And then additionally, in-person networking is really important. You're going to meet so many suppliers face to face, but also service providers. You'll meet freight forwarders, you'll meet inspection companies, tons of different resources at your fingertips that maybe you'd only tried to find online before. It's great to have people on the ground. Exclusive access in terms of discovering new products. We kind of already talked about that. There's a ton of suppliers at Canton Fair specifically that are not on Alibaba at all. So for me, when I first went to Canton Fair, I just couldn't believe the scale and how many products I saw and how different it was compared to what I saw online. There was just so much innovation, and I wasn't able to find a lot of those companies online. So it was really, really great to feel like I had kind of a leg up. So that also gives you some industry insights. So insights into market trends, competitor strategies, emerging technologies, and then a lot of learning opportunities as well. If you come on a sourcing trip, you're really going, it's like a big mastermind. It's like a daily mastermind. You're always exchanging ideas and meeting new people and learning things. So it's like an accelerated business conference attending something like this. What do you think,
Can,
Gary? Anything
can
else?
I weigh in? Yeah, one thing that some people don't realize is when you're on the trade floor and you're looking at the different products in the different booths, like where everyone can see, the suppliers, they're especially in China, they're very scared that of copycats, that their competitor will copy their idea, especially if they have something new and different and unique. So it's kind of like a catch 22, right? So what they do is they keep that top secret, like that new thing, like in the back or even in their hotel room. And then it's up to you to kind of demonstrate that you're a legit business, there's a lot of potential. And then they're like, oh, you know what? We're talking about this. There's actually this new thing. And then if you want, we can take you to the upstairs like hotel, etc. And then you get to see that. And then that's the thing. That's the really, like the differentiator that you may not see. So just like a quick tip in my years of sourcing, you may be able to get that, but don't just think everything out there on the trade floor, that's it, because there's other things that people like, especially in China, they're super scared of copycats because China's known for that. So yeah, we can drop in some more like nuggets like that. But yeah, let's keep going. This is good
Love
stuff.
it. Let them show you what's behind the counter, right?
Yeah, behind the curtain, right? It's behind the curtain.
So we want
Yeah.
to know from you guys, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to sourcing products? Is it finding reliable suppliers? 2, negotiating your prices? 3, ensuring product quality? Or 4, managing logistics and shipping? What are your biggest challenges? For me, I would say it's logistics and shipping because I'm pretty good at sourcing, right? Like I have a hard time figuring out all the time like the perfect mix of like when to ship something out, when to place an order, right? I'm glad I have software that helps me with that, but I would say, I'm pretty good at everything else, and that would be my one weak point.
Yeah.
So Pete
Abby
says,
says, yeah, Abby says all. David says 1 in 4, finding reliable suppliers and logistics and shipping. Pete says 1 in 3, and Noreen is 1 in 3.
Okay, so nobody really complained about pricing. So that's good. So people are feeling pretty happy with their prices, but finding a reliable supplier for that price, right? And ensure
Yes.
product quality can be tough. Okay, cool. Well, we definitely
Yes.
have some ways around that. So we just wanted to kind of go over overall sourcing methods. Like there's a million ways to source products. So you have direct sourcing. That's where you're, buying directly from a manufacturer. This often can lead to better prices since there's no middleman involved, right? You're dealing directly with the manufacturer. So that's what's great about going to trade shows because you can often meet a manufacturer direct and build those relationships. And then you've got indirect sourcing. That's where you're going through a middleman. Maybe you're agent, sourcing agent, something like that. You're using a sourcing company like Signify or 80/20 sourcing, Um, but indirect sourcing can be helpful as well. Online marketplaces, a lot of us use like Alibaba, Global Sources, trade shows, and we were talking about that today. Wholesale markets. Now, wholesale markets are more for people that kind of need, I don't know if some of you guys have been to like ASD in Vegas, right? That's an example of kind of a wholesale market. That's great for people who have like a brick and mortar store, or if there's maybe selling wholesale on Amazon, but it's getting harder and harder, especially with the factory direct pricing that's coming. So those are kind of falling in popularity as far as for Amazon sellers. And then of course, network referrals. So I often will go to one of my suppliers and say, hey, do you know somebody that can provide this, right? So getting a referral from a friend or from someone else can come from one of your other suppliers can be really, really helpful.
Can
So
I
Gary, what is your
wait?
favorite way of
My
sourcing?
my favorite way of sourcing. That's a tough question. Well, one thing that came to mind is wholesale markets because in China, especially, there's a couple places with big wholesale markets. One is in Yiwu, Yiwu. It's city outside of Shanghai, about 2 hours by bullet train. It's just 24/7, 365 all year round. They have multiple buildings, like a lot of stuff you can find, like from Halloween costumes to like kitchen cups. Like I think the Yeti cup was found there. So literally it's like it's all year round. So you don't have to necessarily wait for Canton Fair. And the other thing is, in my personal experience, one of the brands that I started in 2016 was Apple Watch brand, and in Shenzhen there's multiple wholesale markets from like electronics, stuff like that you find in Shenzhen, and then one of the band suppliers we actually found at that wholesale market, and we built a six-figure business out of that. So don't overlook that. Wholesale markets. I think my personal favorite would be trade shows, but really, if you're already in a particular niche, like let's say if you're in kitchen, like one of the products I was selling before was a kitchen like coffee related product, and then I went to like a cooking trade show, right? Like a specific cooking trade show. So all the suppliers were like cooking related. So I was able to find deeper
Yeah.
network of suppliers if you go to like an industry specific one. So I was able to find that supplier. I don't know about you, Amy. Like what's your personal
No,
favorite besides Canton Fair, obviously?
I agree that it's good to dig deeper, right? I don't personally
Yeah.
find the wholesale markets very attractive because I've been to Iwu and for me it's just there it's very hard. It's like needle in a haystack, it
Yeah.
in terms of, I would just rather direct source additional things that I need when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I agree with you. If I'm in a specific niche, I like to dig deeper. And speaking of that, I like to also visit trade shows in other countries
Mm.
because really, Canton Fair is amazing, but there's a ton of different stuff, and trade shows are a great way to just kind of get a feel for what's there. And especially in countries where there is not really a big Alibaba presence, like Mexico is one of those, India's not a great Alibaba presence. So there's some India websites and stuff, but going yourself to these trade shows is really great. So just kind of looking at our major sourcing hubs, obviously China is one of the biggest, right? But we also have India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Brazil, Mexico, Taiwan, Turkey, Indonesia, Germany. There's so many great places to source from around the world. So it's just kind of understanding that, you've kind of got one-stop shopping in China, but that doesn't mean that you can't diversify your supply chain and find great opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah. Can I just add one more point to that?
Yeah.
Japan. And Japan,
Yes.
people are overlooking because Japan, it it's strong in a couple of areas. One is food, like think matcha. I mean, there's a lot of like trending matcha type products. Also certain kitchen type like tools, like knives, and certain types of ceramics. Ceramic ware. So and also like some fabrics, like Japanese denim, and then like made in Japan can carry like a higher price point because it's better perceived quality made in Japan, stuff like that. So definitely, don't just limit yourselves. And I think one big takeaway is we can always learn from like the big players, right? Like the Apples, like how they're sourcing their supply chain. They're, diversifying beyond China, but it's not saying they're not sourcing in China anymore. It's like China plus, X, right? China plus India, China plus Vietnam, China plus that. Right. So I think,
Yeah.
as Amazon e-commerce sellers, we can kind of learn from what like big players like Apple, Walmart, etc. are doing, which they are doing
Yeah,
global sourcing. Yeah.
diversifying around. Yeah, and I did with Mike Michelini the other day. We did a webinar about using multiple suppliers and factories for a single product, and there was
Yes.
a lot of great points out of that. And I think that
Yes.
goes to the same, just making sure you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. So we have another poll question for you guys. What's the most important factor for you when you're choosing a supplier? Is it one, price competitiveness, two, product quality, three, their reputation, or four, having flexible payment terms?
What do you
For me,
think, guys? Put this in the chat. All
Evie
right.
says
So
all.
Abby says all. David 2 and 3. All right.
Hmm.
Quality and supplier reputation. Noreen says 1 and 2. Price and quality.
Hmm. Yeah, and for me, I'm with Abby here. I think all of them are equally important, right? Because I need a competitive price, but I also need quality. I also need a supplier who is a good partner and can deliver for me on time every time. And that's why I do factory audits. And I also have my attorney check out their financials, everything like that before I enter into a contract with any supplier so that I make sure that that they're going to be able to honor a contract. And then in terms of flexible payment terms, for me, it's like it in terms of when I'm first talking with a supplier, I want to know how open they are to negotiating prices, to working with me long term. If I'm ordering a container at a time, I want to know like what are your rates? Are they different from this rate you're giving me today? Can you work together with me on pricing? That's more important to me um than looking at a short-term price quote, right? Like I don't just care about the price you're giving me today. I want to know what the price is going to be at different quantities. I want to know, can we work together over time? Will you be flexible with payment terms, things like that? So yeah, for me, it's definitely all of them.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think just one point, payment terms, a lot of sellers overlook that. And it's super important in terms of cash flow because as Amazon sellers, we're in the inventory business, right? So cash flow is super important. So you have to be able to, over time, delay your payments. I mean, you can get like net 30, net 60, net 90. Think about how that would help your business. You could potentially, you could purchase the products, manufacture, ship, and start selling them and get some of that money back before you pay off the supplier. Obviously, this takes time, this takes, relationship trust to be built, but this is, what the big players do, right? Like Walmart, these big brands, they really strong arm the suppliers because they can command such huge volumes. It's like,
Yeah.
if you want to do business with us, okay, you got to play by our rules, right? Net 30, 60, 90, right? So I think as smaller sellers, we can learn about that. Don't overlook that when you're doing your negotiations.
For
Good stuff.
sure. And, I think it is so important to understand how to talk to suppliers and how to do negotiations. And anyone who comes on our trips, we actually do pre-trip training where we cover that. Everybody gets a copy of my book where we cover like what questions should you ask, in what order should you ask them, why, how do you uncover things about a supplier that helps you vet that supplier, find out if they're a good partner, that helps you determine if they're a good partner to develop your product without giving up your idea. Can they honor a contract? Like all those things can happen in one conversation. And so it's just understanding what kind of questions you should be asking. So there's the thing I said earlier about like, you don't know what you don't know until you go. I've had so many clients that because they're kind of remote sourcing, and there's nothing wrong with remote sourcing, but after you go on a sourcing trip like this and you source remote after that, it will change everything about the way you source. Because after you've actually gone to factories and seen the way things are made and seen what questions you should be asking and seen what things you should be looking out for, you will then, and after you've had all these conversations at a huge trade show like that, you will then understand how to build those relationships and work with your suppliers and what you should see, right? So here is a picture on the right of a factory that I visited. It was outside of Ningbo, and it was with one of my clients, and the thing was, the conditions inside of the factory, there was not a lot of quality control built in. So when we take you on a factory tour, we tell you the 4 different areas of a factory you should visit, what you should be looking for in each area. So they made a lot of product, but you can see there was just no good method for organization or sorting. They're just dumping these things in these bins, right? And so if you don't know that, if you just see this spoon, on Alibaba and you're like, 25 cents, that's great, but you don't know, we had people say, hey, I had quality control issues, right? And that's one of my big struggles. This is what happens if you never visit your suppliers or you don't have video calls with them and you don't know what to look for. You can really kind of get stuck with a supplier that either isn't even making your product. I've been on multiple calls with people's suppliers where they're not even making that person's product. And that seller doesn't even know because they don't know what questions to ask. They don't understand how to kind of look at the factory, even on a video call. So it's very important because when you understand that supplier's capabilities, you'll also understand the opportunities that you have with that supplier and the ways that you can grow. And then you'll also understand potential pitfalls or risks. So it's once you understand what to look for, it's going to change your sourcing game completely. And that's really important when it comes to your product quality, your costs, your time saved. How many of you have been looped around and around and around with the supplier? Like, how can I get my products delivered on time? I had a client the other day, she just launched her product, a unique product. It's been selling like mad cats. And now she's getting ready to order her second thing. And her second order, she calls up the supplier and the supplier's like, sorry, we're booked up through Chinese New Year. And so luckily, unfortunately, she had not followed my rules about doing a general conditions agreement. So in China, we always do general conditions agreement that outlines our delivery timelines and our payment terms and everything for a 3 to 5 year period. And this is a hot tip for you guys. And we'll be teaching you, if you come to China with us, we'll be teaching you all about that and giving you our attorneys, everything. But had she had that document signed before she started working with the supplier, they would have had to honor her timelines. But because they don't have any contract with her, she just gets put in the line with everybody else. And so if you understand what you're doing when it comes to your contracts, what to put in writing with your suppliers, how to work with them and make them your partner, it will change everything about all of, the pitfalls that we talked about earlier.
Good
So
stuff. Good stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so just talking about reducing costs. So this was our number one reason to attend trade shows, right? So our number one reason is to reduce costs. So in going to trade shows, you're going to eliminate the middleman. You'll know on Alibaba, you have no idea. There could be, I have a friend who actually has been on Alibaba for years. He's like a 10-year gold supplier, whatever, with all the diamonds and everything. He's literally just a dude in his apartment. He's not a factory at all.
Mhm.
So that's the thing is like, online you can portray to be anyone you want to be, right? And there's certain ways to get around certain paperwork and things like that. And I'm not saying that that's every supplier on Alibaba. There's some good suppliers on Alibaba as well, but you really don't know who you're dealing with. If you go to that supplier in person, you meet them at a trade show, you see who they are, you can look at their business license, it'll be hanging up in their booth, right? Like you'll know who they are. You'll be able to see their products. This picture that I took here is one of my suppliers that I found at Canton Fair. This supplier helped me save over $14 per unit on my fulfillment costs because my product used to have a huge plastic waste bin on the bottom of it. So it was like this size. I had to ship this, you guys. This was like $25 per unit to ship. So at Canton Fair, I saw these collapsible laundry bins and I had them custom make me one for my product and it reduced the box size completely flat. And I was able to save $14 on average per unit in fulfillment costs. That was huge for my margins. But when I went to Canton Fair, I had no idea how to solve this problem. I just knew that I had a problem and I had an eye out looking for different things. So that was the thing, it like reduced my cost big time on fulfillment because of the size of the product, because I discovered another product that could kind of be altered to meet my needs. I would have never seen that had I not gone to Canton Fair because this was a new product for them even.
That's
And then
huge. That's huge. I think, I mean, that's a huge takeaway. Like Amy was able to save $14 per unit on her landed cost, right? And she was able to realize this saving by going to Canton Fair and connecting the dots, right? She had her product supplier here, and then she found a packaging or like, you know, like that trash can supplier over there, and then she had the inspiration, hey, we can collapse this, right? So I think you guys got to put yourself in the right place to realize that if you're just sourcing remotely, it's a lot harder to connect the dots versus you physically being there. Amy was able to visually, you know, like piece this whole thing, this puzzle together. So
the other
genius.
thing
Yeah.
too, Gary, is like the last time I was at Canton Fair, I've always wanted to launch a litter box because it accompanies my other product, right? But litter boxes are huge and they're expensive to ship, and I didn't want to get in that game, right? But I was walking through Canton Fair, and this is the reason you need to go to multiple phases. Like even if you see that your product is in phase 2, and you're like, I don't think I need phase 3. I was walking around during phase 3 in office supplies, you guys, in office supplies. And I'm going to grab this so I can show it to you. And this guy creates like plastic folders. And he actually created a litter box. He had a pet stuffed cat in it. And with an actual sifter built into the litter box, it fully
Nice.
collapses, fully folds down, and he sent me home with a sample. I
Nice.
never thought about this material for a litter box, but this, I could build a pour spout into it so it would work with my product, like huge and so cheap. So
Yeah.
cheap, fully collapsible. I would have never seen this had I not gone to a trade show,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And think about all of the shipping fees saved, the Amazon storage fees saved, the fulfillment fees saved, right? I mean, you're just like maximizing profit all across the board, you know,
Yeah,
just by
a little
going there,
corner in
right?
office supplies, right?
Yeah. You got to think outside the box, right? I mean, literally, they're redesigning the box for you. So there you go.
Exactly. And then the second big reason, you guys, is to discover new products. How many of you guys need new products, right? So the thing was like first mover advantage. Trade shows are going to showcase these new and innovative products that haven't hit the market yet. Additionally, as you're talking to different suppliers, I'm going to encourage you to ask questions like, what are your primary export markets? What do your customers love, right? Like what's most popular with you? Because you'll discover stuff that they'll be like, oh yeah, we're just selling this to Japan right now, or we're just selling this to Europe. And you're like, oh my gosh, like that would kill it in the US, you know? And so not only can you find new and innovative products, you can find stuff that's popular in other markets. Like this is a global trade. You can find stuff that's popular in other markets that hasn't even been launched in the US yet and would crush it there. So there's so many new and unique product opportunities that you can find at trade shows that just, you know, there's really no comparison when it comes to that stuff. You're just getting your hands on it before everybody else does. And then the second thing is just tailored solutions. So being able to customize. So this picture that I'm showing here is actually a floor mat. I sell floor mats on Amazon, and I sell the ones that are like pet floor mats, right? But I sell them in like home and kitchen as well. And I saw a supplier at the Canton Fair who was actually adding colors to these. No one had them with colors. No one. Like it was just basically like gray, black, beige, those are the only colors you could get in these floor mats. So I'm walking along and I see, oh my gosh, this one supplier is printing designs on these floor mats. And I realized this gives me a huge advantage because I can now have colored designs versus my competitors who just have gray, right? And so being able to customize products in new ways. And as I just showed you that litter box with the fully collapsible, like who would have thought of that, right? And then the same thing with, the bottom of my product, like making it fully collapsible. Like I would have never been able to do that if I was just on Alibaba looking for products, right? This is stuff you gotta go, you gotta see, you gotta feel it, you gotta, and you get so many great ideas. And then you see these trends, which kind of gets you ahead of everybody else. Even at Canton Fair, there's these unique booths like patterns and different things that you can license. And it is just really cool to see what's trending and what's happening.
Yeah, and if I can weigh in on the trends, if you go to certain trade shows, they'll literally have like trend forecasts for next year. I mean, especially like let's say in the fashion category, like I used to go to like Magic in Vegas, right? And then there was this presenter, like I love the guy. I think like he was like a Parsons School of Design like instructor or something. Like he literally would give you like slideshow after slideshow, photos of all the latest, fashion trends on the streets of Paris, Milan, and Saint Tropez. And then they're like, okay, they hit the streets over there like 6 months to 9 months before the rest of the world, right? And then so he
Yeah.
was giving us this like master class in that at the trade show for free because they want you to buy more, right? So you get this kind of inside information that'd be very difficult to get if you're just trying to do it remotely. So definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, and people think about like I'm making diaper bags or whatever. Like imagine having your hands on the latest trends and now you're the first to market with a new bag that fits this trend that's going live in
Yeah,
Milan, It's like,
yeah,
are you kidding me? Like you're going to crush it.
exactly.
There's no better
Yeah.
way to do it. That's incredible. So the last part of the second reason for unique products is to gain a competitive edge. Like obviously we all know what's going on with Amazon, right? We know that our days of being able to sell the spatula are going to, they're kind of coming to an end. It's kind of sad, right? But at the same time, like we got to adapt and we can adapt, it's really great. So, just be thinking about, why you need to be attending trade shows right now is because you can really gain a competitive edge. You can develop better products. You can get better relationships with your suppliers. You can reduce the risk of copycats, by getting into the proper contracts and understanding, how you can protect something with intellectual property. If you come with us on our trip, we have all the resources for you. You gain access to all of our courses beforehand, and then we do master classes leading up to the trip, just to kind of help you understand, like, how do I protect things? How should I be thinking about developing products with intellectual property if I want to do that, right? How should I be talking to a supplier without giving up my ideas? That kind of thing. So we just want to cover real quick why source direct, right? Like the first thing is to reduce your costs and improve your timelines. We talked about this a little bit, right? Having stronger negotiation power in China, Guangxi is really important, which is the building of relationships. And I can tell you, it's not just in China, it's in every single country I've ever visited when it comes to sourcing. In-person relationships matter, and it changes the game when it comes to your pricing. On average, our sellers who come on our sourcing trips save over 50%, 50% on what they were previously paying. A lot of times, just when their suppliers find out they're coming to China, they drop their prices. It is huge. So this really gives you stronger negotiation power when you're building a relationship. You also get more customized support because that supplier that you have a relationship with is more likely to go to the extra mile for you. I mean, that supplier that I showed you guys that did my bin when the pandemic happened, they sent me masks because there was no masks in the US. Like we had like a mask shortage. They shipped them out to me, you know, like they really genuinely care about the people that they're working with. They care that you come and visit them. So it really is a huge advantage when you build those relationships and you don't just have a remote relationship. And
Yeah,
then
I can,
secondly, oh yeah, go ahead,
sorry,
Gary.
can I weigh in? When you do go to China, like the concept of guanxi in Chinese, it's kind of like building better relationships to build better business. It's like a mixture of trust, how much business you've done with each other, and even like the amount of time that you've been doing business. You know, like we've been doing business for like 5 years, and I think of it like from the supplier's perspective. Just as we're evaluating and judging the suppliers often forget they're evaluating us, the buyers, as well, because they just get inundated with like so many Alibaba requests, like what's MOQ, lowest price. You know, if you can differentiate yourself, you're like getting skin in the game. Think about it. You're physically boarding a flight, paying for a hotel, you know, spending that time visiting the supplier in person. They'll remember Amy, you know, when, you know, let's say they
Mhm.
get slammed with the order and Amy's like, hey, can I get another order in? And they're like, oh, sorry, you know, we're flooded until Chinese New Year. But if they remember Amy, you know, Amy came to visit, you know, we had that lunch together, maybe you went to karaoke, etc. Right? You know, some drinks involved. Okay, let's see what we can do for Amy versus that, you know, Joe Smith online. Like we never met the guy, you know, sorry, maybe we can squeeze Amy's order in before Chinese New Year, you know, because in China, oftentimes there's always a way, right? So if you do go to China, you know, I'm not saying, you know, miracles will happen overnight, but if you invest that, the suppliers, they appreciate that, you know. So I think
Yeah,
that will give you a leg up when you're doing direct sourcing.
for sure. And as Gary mentioned, like clear communication, right? So when you're having that direct relationship, and then also transparency. So the big things that people get, we do a full day of factory tours on the China trip, and it's not about you finding a factory to source from. It's about you going to a factory tour with experts so that you understand what you should be looking at and what you should be looking for. And that's where this transparency comes in. Because let me tell you, you can meet a supplier at trade shows and it's better than remote sourcing because you actually get to see their products and you get to meet them and build a little bit of a relationship. But if you actually go visit, it brings transparency that you can't get elsewhere. So even going to factory tours with us, like you're gonna see, okay, this is how I should be visiting my factories. Even if I do a video call with them, this is what I should be looking for. But that transparency is huge. There's been times when we've gone on factory tours, like somebody who came on one of my sourcing trips, she found 3 different suppliers and they were all in kind of the Iwu area. So I flew to Iwu with her. And the one that we thought was going to be the best, like they answered all the questions the best, and like they were like they had the best pricing and they had all the certificates, everything. We showed up at that factory and it was like no communication. It was a terrible time, and they ended up being our worst, you know, at the end of the day. But the one that was like in third place ended up moving up to first after we went and visited them. So, you know, just kind of getting an understanding, these things will save you so much time, so much money. Even if you never go visit that factory, but you understand what you should be looking for and you do a video call with that factory afterwards, huge, huge game changer. And you're going to get that transparency that you need to be able to make better sourcing decisions. And then just your long-term partnerships. I think Gary already kind of touched on this, but like having that trust and the loyalty that matters in China, it matters everywhere you go in the world. Mexico too, like they're huge on that. And then problem solving when you get stuck. You know, we've kind of already, you know, beat this one, but you know, making sure that you have a strong relationship so that when you run into problems, you're not just some stranger that they don't know. You know, you've actually seen them and you know how to work through these things together.
Excellent. Amy, just to keep our eye on the clock, we have about 15 minutes left.
Yep,
Great
yep.
stuff.
That's why I'm moving through these. So we're
Okay.
almost to the end of this stuff. So, and then last thing is just to protect your product ideas. So being able to actually enter into agreements with these suppliers, make sure you can see their business license, you know who they are, right? So I have a question for you guys. Can you have an exclusive agreement with a supplier you've never met? Can you have like an NNN agreement or a legal contract with a supplier you've never met in person? Noreen says yes. David says
David
sure.
says, sure, question mark. The
So there's a catch, right? And Gary, what would you say the catch is?
catch,
Yeah.
you have to have, I mean, you have to have the trust, the credibility, and the confidence built in, right? And it's hard to do if you've never met them. I'm not saying it's impossible, but
Yeah. It's
it's
not
it's
impossible. That's
difficult.
right. You
Yeah.
can go through all, you can have factory audits done. You can make sure they are who they say they are. And trust me, like I've done interviews with factory audit people and they've said like, Amy, you wouldn't believe it. Like we went to the address and there wasn't even a building there. Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
that happens, you know? So, it's you can have agreements, but you do need to make sure that you're vetting your suppliers, right? And that you're making sure that they're able to be held to an agreement, financially, all those things. So, we teach you all that stuff, but we just wanted you to think about like, do you really know your supplier? And you want to take those extra steps. So why now? Why is 2024 the year? We said that on our webinar. We were like, 2024, you've got to attend trade shows. Well, now more than ever, you guys, e-commerce is changing. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of new platforms coming to market. Social and video commerce is growing like never before. It's like I'm on TikTok Shop. I teach TikTok Shop. It's crazy how fast it's growing and how much it's growing Amazon stores as well. So really, we have a post-pandemic shift here. We've got changes in the global trade dynamics, and the importance of staying competitive in this rapidly evolving landscape is so important. So now more than ever, making this investment in your business is so important because you need this knowledge. You need the mastermind capabilities of going with a group. You need to go and see what's going on in the industry and the landscape of the categories of your products. Now is the time to get away from remote sourcing only and actually go in person and develop unique, innovative products and move forward and build your brand like never before. And then I would say, why else is it important? Well, I mean, the networking opportunities are huge. Attending the workshops that we're going to be doing, gaining those market insights like Gary was talking about, and spotting trends early. It's really, really important. So this is our China trip. We're going to be going from October 24th through November the 2nd. It's a 10-day sourcing trip. So we're just going to give you some highlights of the trip. So we do networking events throughout the trip in the evenings. We also have incredible dining experiences. Every night we do something kind of different for dinner. We do tourism in the city of Guangzhou. Guangzhou is a beautiful city. I think there's close to 20 million people in that city. Lights up at night. It's really great. We also do exclusive behind the scenes business tours. So like last time, you can see this picture of all of us at Shein headquarters. Not just anyone gets to go visit Shein. Like we have contacts in China that have given us these special privileges. The trip before, we went to Alibaba headquarters for the day, spent the day with
So you
Alibaba.
can see Amy has built up the guanxi in China. She's able to take you behind these closed
Guangxi.
doors to Shein, to Alibaba, right? That's how
Yes.
it works, guys.
And
You
so
can
this
leverage her
last
guanxi to get this.
you can. This next trip, we're actually planning on having a special mastermind day with Chinese sellers. So it's going to be really, really interesting. And we may have some visits by Amazon, TikTok, and Temu, but we will see. We're going to spend hopefully the day in Shenzhen. That's what we're putting together at this time. But you won't see that on other trips. This is stuff that we do unique to us. We also do a day of factory visits. We already talked about that, but it's really cool. We go to like packaging factories, and I will never throw away a box of chocolates again after seeing each piece of paper be meticulously glued and then wrapped around the heart box. I was just like, oh my gosh, wow, like a lot of work goes into creating a chocolate box. So we do factory visits. We do Canton Fair mentor sessions. So imagine walking through the Canton Fair with experts by your side. Like that's huge, right? And just kind of understanding how to navigate it. It's an all-inclusive business trip. So basically we cover everything except for your flight and your lunches at the Canton Fair. We cover your breakfast, we cover your dinners, we cover all of your transportation during the trip, the factory tours, the excursions, the tourism, the dinners, everything is covered. You just got to show up, and we even pick you up from the airport and take you to the hotel. So you're good to go. Your hotel is covered. Everything is covered within the cost of our trip. So we also do pre-trip training and master classes. So Gary will be doing some pre-trip training with our folks. This is one of the training sessions that we do, but we also do attendee very specific master classes because we want to really prepare you to go. So that's kind of what's included. And why consider attending with us? Well, you know, we have folks that have come with us 2, 3, 4 times. And there's a reason for that. It's an incredibly unique experience. And you build relationships that you just don't get. You don't get resources like this. You don't get relationships like this on anything but sourcing trips. In fact, our sponsors, Quiet Light, they have told us multiple times, like the relationships that we've built on your sourcing trips are more beneficial than anything that we've done, like just going to a conference or anything, because you're really spending a lot of time with people and it's like a constant mastermind. So it's just a really unique opportunity, a really unique value. And with most of our folks saving over 50% on their sourcing costs, the trip pays for itself. It almost is like more than free when you take all of that into consideration. So we have some great testimonials. Like everyone that has been on our trip has just like had nothing but great things to say about it. I know Christy here is saying she loved the pre-trip training. We do great workshops with you to prepare you for China, to teach you how to negotiate, all of that kind of stuff. And then, you know, Opal, who came on 2 trips ago, she actually was in kind of a wholesale. She had multiple different brands and different things in stores. And she was just like, wow, I can't believe how many opportunities there are here. So she really loved that. And her favorite part was walking the fair, meeting with the AH group and having this experience with them and opening up possibilities for new products for my brand. So just some
Amy, what is the AH group?
So that's the Amazing at Home group. So like
Okay,
Amazing at Home is like the host of the trip, right?
awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah, we always say like AAH as like as short for Amazing at Home. So just to give you guys an
Awesome.
idea of the schedule, the itinerary, on the 24th of October, we arrive in Guangzhou. We don't really do anything that day. If you arrive a few days early, we can help you with that, right? But you just get to chill that day. And then the October 25th through the 27th, we go to Canton Fair Phase 2 with mentors. And then in the evenings, we do networking events. We also have a welcome dinner. That's a lot of fun. We do a full Chinese style dinner because we got to teach you guys, you know, how to navigate China. Our goal for you is when you're done with our trip, you should feel comfortable coming back to China by yourself. Like that's our goal for you. So we want to like fully get you into the culture and understanding of what China is like. Then October 27th, that's when Canton Fair Phase 2 wraps up early that day. So that night we go on a Pearl River cruise together for dinner, and then we do karaoke later that night. It's always fun. People always love it. And the pictures from the Pearl River are just amazing. October 28th, we spend a full day of factory tours, take you to many different factories, give you an idea of what you should be looking for. We just get on the bus together and have a great time. And then October 29th, we are doing our exclusive business tour and mastermind event that I talked about. And then October 30th, we'll go do some tourism. We'll eat some street food. We'll have some fun in the city of Guangzhou. And then October 31st through November 2nd is Phase 3 of the Canton Fair. So we go back to Canton Fair. We have more fun. We have more networking stuff in the evenings and dinners in the evenings. And then November 2nd is our departure day. You can stay longer if you want. That's fine. But that is our official end of our trip. And we are headed over to Thailand for the cross-border summit. So you can either extend your trip and join us in Thailand, or you can go home, or you can stay in China during that time. No matter what, we'll help you with your, if you have any, like, hey, Amy, I want to go visit my factory, or I want to do this or that. So, you know, we have a little gallery here of different photos of, you know, us. This was before our welcome dinner in the hotel. And then we've got some networking events. FBA for You always does a networking event. This is one of our factory tours. This is at the Canton Fair. This is also in front of a factory tour, but just a ton of fun, a ton of learning. So what's included? We include your basically everything. We get 5-star hotel, your Canton Fair registration and visa assistance. We help you out with that. Your excursions, incredible mentors along the way, Gary included, airport transportation, meals and dining experiences. And Gary, we've given him a coupon because he's Gary, so he gets what he wants, you know? So you guys
I'm
can
trying
use
to get as much value as I can for you guys. So you will get
exactly.
$350 off using coupon code Gary in China, one word. I just dropped the link in the chat. And just to be transparent, I'm a mentor. I'm an affiliate as well. So if you do join through me, you mentioned me, I will get a commission that helps us to, put on this free trainings like this, and it helps to buy me some coffee because I definitely need coffee to keep things going. So highly
Yep.
recommend you guys check it out if you are considering Canton Fair.
Yay. Okay, so what's next? What's the next steps to sign up? If you guys want to check it out, you can book now. Oh, and use Gary in China at this web link, right? Instead of China info, use Gary in China. And then if you have questions, if you just want to get one-on-one with me and sit down and, hey, Amy, I have specific questions about the trip, you can use this link to book a one-on-one session with me. It's just a quick little one-on-one and we can talk about, it can answer any of your questions. So that's just bit.ly and then AHCDC. And then after that, once you get onboarded to the trip, we tell you to wait to make your travel plans, like to actually wait to book your flights till you get in our groups, because we have like chat groups and stuff with the other participants. And so we want to wait so that you can get to know other people. And then, you can decide if you want to come along and you want to come early, you want to stay late, whatever. But wait to book those until you get in. And then start in the middle of September, we'll start our pre-trip training. So that is like just getting us all ready to head over to China and get lots of workshops going. We'll meet each other on Zoom. It's a lot of fun. And that is really it, Gary. I mean, we made it. Just,
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amy, for the super valuable training. Any questions, guys, before we close out at the end of the hour? There was one other point I like to highlight. A big advantage you get when you go to a trade show is speed. Think about the time savings you'll get versus trying to source remotely online. Alibaba, everyone knows, like back and forth emails, etc. It's like Alibaba hell. When you go to a trade show, literally you can rapid fire. You can see like 5 suppliers, 10 suppliers in your niche, in your category. You can get hands-on with the samples. You can see what you like, what you don't like. You can instantly say, hey, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. You'll save so much time, right? Literally like months of time in this like squeezed 10-day period. So I think that's another huge advantage besides like the cost savings is the time savings. All right.
yeah. And I would just say, like, for me, it's just always game changing, just what you don't know. Like, I'll never forget Amit from ProBox came on our last trip and he was like, he's been to China a million times. He's a freight forwarder in China. So he's been to China a million times. And he came on the trip and he had never been to Canton Fair. And he was like, Amy, I can't believe this. I can't believe I've never been. I can't believe that sellers don't know about this. Like, he's like, it's just such a game changer. Like, he just kept going on and on and on about it. Because it really is like a massive scale like you haven't seen before. And it's bigger than any trade show you'll find in any country. It's like humongous. And so it's the biggest influx of Westerners to China twice a year. So it's like, it's pretty big deal. So it's cool to be able to be part of a unique network that's kind of going on this venture together.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Amy. I learned a lot. I'm sure everybody else did too. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you guys get a chance to check it out. And again, the website I put in the chat is amazingathome.com/China. Use coupon code Gary in China for your discount. Chad says I'm in. Awesome, Chad. And David says thank you so much. All right. So great job, guys. Thank you again, and we will see everybody at the next session. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thanks.